Imagine two students preparing for the same examination. Both are intelligent, both dream of success, yet one studies enthusiastically every day while the other quietly loses motivation before even beginning. What changed? Was it intelligence? Was it talent? Or was it something far more fascinating? The belief that effort can create excellence.
Will people work hard if they don't believe their efforts matter? Look at it this way. On one side, we've got our enthusiastic student. Every single time she opens her notes, she's fueled by this quiet, powerful certainty. She truly believes deep down that the energy she's expending right now is going to directly improve her performance. The struggle of studying, it's completely justified in her mind. But then, on the other side, our unmotivated student sits there, staring at the exact same notes. He's got the same cognitive ability, the same immense potential, but he sincerely doubts whether his hard work will actually make any meaningful difference in the end. You know, we humans make thousands of decisions every single day. Sure, a lot of them are trivial, but the ones that actually determine the course of our lives, they're governed by this invisible, unconscious calculation. Before we invest our precious time, our limited energy, and our sweat into any meaningful goal, we're always silently asking ourselves, is the toll worth the destination?
Today, we'll discover one of the most fascinating mysteries of human motivation, the psychology of expectancy. We've all been told since childhood that if we want something in life, we just need to work hard, right? It's literally the standard advice of every coach, every mentor, and every parent out there. But why is working hard so utterly natural for some people and yet feels nearly impossible for others? Is it just a matter of willpower? Are some people just born with more grit? Or is there a hidden psychological engine driving our ambition beneath the surface? Well, this isn't just some abstract concept. It's the very blueprint of human drive. It explains the actual mechanics behind ambition and completely clarifies why ordinary people can repeatedly outwork, outlast, and outperform supposed geniuses. Okay, let's really dive into this by exploring how sports psychology and motivational science explain this deeply human phenomenon. The whole thing centers around Victor Vroom's expectancy theory of motivation. Now, what is absolutely crucial to grasp here is the concept of beliefs. Vroom proposed a pretty radical idea for his time. He said that motivation doesn't emerge simply because someone in a position of authority demands results from us. It doesn't even magically appear just because a shiny reward is dangled at the finish line. Instead, true sustainable motivation is generated from meaningful, deeply held internal beliefs. These beliefs have to securely connect our effort to our performance, and then connect that performance to a specific outcome. Think of it like a massive mental bridge spanning across a wide canyon. If you don't actually believe the bridge can hold your weight, well, no amount of cheering from the other side is going to convince you to take that first step. There are specific, unyielding conditions that literally have to exist in our environment for that mental bridge to be built and trusted. You can think of these as 3 essential stepping stones that we have to cross, right in sequence. First, you must genuinely believe that putting in the effort will actually improve your performance. Like, if I sweat, will I actually get better? Second, you have to believe that once your performance improves, it will invariably lead to a desirable outcome or a reward. If I get better, will anyone actually notice or care? And third, that final outcome waiting at the end, it has to actually matter to you. It has to hold real, personal, emotional value. If any one of these steps is missing, cracked, or unstable, the entire structure of human motivation just completely collapses. You can't just have one or two. You absolutely need all 3 perfectly aligned to spark genuine, long-lasting drive. Victor Vroom formalized these 3 stepping stones into 3 powerful psychological components: expectancy, instrumentality, and valence. These are the hidden mechanics operating behind the scenes every single time you feel fired up to tackle a massive project. And equally, every time you feel that crushing urge to just give up, stay in bed, and walk away. Honestly, understanding these 3 pillars is essentially like being handed the master control panel to human dedication. So let's break them down one by one. And as we do, I want you to think about a time in your own life when you felt completely unstoppable, and maybe compare it to a time when you felt totally stuck and hopeless. You will absolutely see these 3 pillars at play. Let's start with the first pillar, expectancy. This is the foundational belief that increased effort will directly improve performance. Consider world-class athletes for a second. Have you ever wondered how they can willingly embrace absolutely brutal, agonizing practice sessions? How they can wake up at 4 in the morning, push their bodies to the absolute physical limit, endure freezing ice baths, and then do the whole shebang all over again the very next day? They do it because their expectancy is incredibly high. They possess this unshakable, ironclad belief that disciplined, painful training will directly improve their abilities on the field. The exact same logic applies to the enthusiastic student we talked about earlier. When a student fundamentally believes that consistent late-night preparation translates directly to a better grade, they become highly motivated. The temporary pain of the effort is completely justified by the promise of the improvement. But what happens when the exact opposite is true? The crucial point we really have to understand is that repeated failure significantly and sometimes permanently decreases expectancy. Look, motivation doesn't usually die because people are inherently lazy. We aren't a lazy species by nature. Motivation dies because individuals repeatedly experience failure despite putting in genuine, heartfelt effort. Imagine trying your absolute hardest at a new skill, a complex new sport, or a difficult task at your job and just failing over and over and over again. Eventually, the human brain kicks into survival mode. It starts to calculate that the effort is essentially useless, a complete waste of energy. We become demotivated when we no longer believe that our actions influence meaningful outcomes. This is such a profound realization about the human mind. Confidence isn't just some fake-it-till-you-make-it mindset that you can artificially create in a vacuum. Confidence frequently develops through actual, undeniable experiences of competence and mastery. If we want people to expect success, we have to help them experience small, tangible wins. Now let's move to the second pillar and see how this builds the next section of that motivational bridge. This is instrumentality, the belief that good performance will actually produce the desired outcome. So let's say you've put in the grueling effort and your performance has indeed improved. Now what? Does it actually get you anywhere? Think about the modern workplace. Employees work with incredible passion, loyalty, and enthusiasm when they trust the system. When they believe that their excellent late-night performance on a major project will be recognized appropriately, maybe with a promotion, a generous bonus, or even just genuine public praise from leadership, they are highly driven. Athletes stay motivated when they see that their improved performance on the practice field contributes meaningfully toward actual playing time in the tournament. Instrumentality at its core is all about trust in the rules of the game.
And this explains exactly why motivation can vanish in an absolute instant. Perceived unfairness destroys motivation. Have you ever worked incredibly hard, performed your job perfectly, sacrificed your weekends, and then watched someone else, perhaps someone who honestly did half the work, receive all the credit? Or perhaps a promised reward was suddenly canceled due to budget cuts? When individuals perceive unfairness, bias, or inconsistency between their excellent efforts and the final outcomes, instrumentality completely shatters. Human beings naturally, deeply desire meaningful, logical relationships between their performance and their rewards. When that relationship is broken by favoritism, changing rules, or unkept promises, even the most capable, brilliant, and driven people will suddenly just stop trying. They haven't lost their ability, and they certainly haven't lost their intelligence. They have simply lost their belief in the system.
Now we arrive at the third and final pillar, valence. This refers to the personal, highly subjective value an individual assigns to a particular outcome or reward. This is where motivation shifts from being purely structural into something deeply personal. We have to remember that not all rewards possess equal value for everyone. If an organization offers a cash bonus for extra overtime work, but what an employee truly desperately wants is just more time at home with their young family, well, the financial reward has extremely low valence for them. They simply won't be motivated by it, no matter how large the check is. One individual might highly value public recognition and applause on a stage, whereas another person is driven entirely by quiet personal satisfaction, the joy of learning, or long-term financial security. If the outcome waiting at the end of the long journey doesn't actually matter to the individual's heart, the entire motivational engine just stalls before it even gets going. So, pulling this all together, extraordinary motivation requires expectancy, instrumentality, and valence to operate simultaneously. You can kind of think of it as a strict mathematical equation, where these three distinct elements are multiplied together: expectancy times instrumentality times valence. If any single one of those variables is a zero, the total motivation equals zero. People become an unstoppable force only when they believe their efforts matter and will improve their performance, when they trust that this performance will be fairly and reliably rewarded, and when those specific rewards mean something profound to them personally. It is a really beautiful yet fragile alignment of belief, trust, and desire.
And the truly fascinating thing about this framework is that it extends beautifully beyond professional sports and corporate workplaces straight into our everyday human experiences. Take parenting, for example. Parents unconsciously apply expectancy principles all the time. When a child struggles to ride a bicycle for the first time, falling off and scraping their knees, a good parent doesn't just demand that they instantly succeed. They don't just yell at them to balance better. No, they encourage the child. They hold the seat, breaking the terrifying task into smaller, manageable steps, helping them realize that falling down is just a totally normal part of learning. They are actively building expectancy, nurturing the child's belief that their clumsy, painful effort today will produce real, joyful improvement tomorrow. We see the exact same psychological dynamic in the classroom and in the boardroom. The greatest teachers don't just stand at a chalkboard and lecture. They actively influence a student's motivation by ensuring they experience real moments of competence. They design lessons that help the student believe that studying directly equals intellectual growth. And the most inspiring leaders in the business world? They aren't just barking orders from a corner office. They purposefully create environments where there is a clear, meaningful, and unequivocally fair relationship between a team member's contribution and their eventual recognition. Psychologists frequently emphasize this. You cannot simply demand motivation from people. You cannot intimidate or yell at someone until they are motivated. Instead, leaders must purposefully construct environments that naturally nurture these three beliefs.
And this brings us to a really profound comparison that solves an age-old mystery: innate talent versus meaningful motivation. Expectancy theory beautifully explains why highly talented individuals, those supposed natural geniuses who just coasted through early life, occasionally fail entirely to realize their massive potential. Talent alone cannot sustain long-term motivation if that individual eventually stops believing their efforts matter, or if they completely lose their sense of purpose in the face of sudden adversity. Conversely, we constantly see ordinary individuals frequently achieve absolutely extraordinary accomplishments. Why? Because they possess meaningful motivation. They remain deeply committed to purposeful effort over a long period of time because their expectancy, instrumentality, and valence remain fiercely intact. And this shatters a massive, pervasive societal myth. Excellence is sustained by meaningful motivation, not merely by talent. Perhaps one of the greatest misconceptions we carry about excellence is the absolute belief that successful individuals are simply more naturally gifted than the rest of us. We look at the gold medalist on the podium, we look at the CEO in the corner office or the brilliant artist, and we just think to ourselves, wow, they were simply born for this. But studying the mind reveals a very different truth. The reality is that excellence is a slow, methodical build. It's forged in the quiet, unseen moments of disciplined effort over years and decades, fueled entirely by an internal environment that constantly tells the human mind, keep going, this matters. Ultimately, human beings are capable of performing extraordinarily, but only when three beautiful unconscious questions receive equally beautiful answers in our minds. Here's the first question we must answer. If I work hard, will I become better? This is the hurdle of expectancy. When we step onto the playing field, open the heavy notebook, or sit down to start that really daunting project, our brain is asking if the sweat equity will actually translate into tangible skill. If we can look at the challenge ahead and answer this with a confident yes, we take the critical first step forward.
Then comes the second question. If I become better, will my efforts matter? This is the ultimate test of instrumentality. Will the world actually recognize the skill I've so painstakingly built? Will the coach finally put me in the game? Will the organization truly value my late-night contribution? If the environment proves to be fair, logical, and responsive to our growth, our yes to this question turns our initial, hesitant step into a confident, powerful stride. We genuinely learn to trust the system around us.
And finally, the most personal, soul-searching question of all. Is this journey meaningful to me? This is Valence. Does the outcome waiting at the very end of this long, difficult road actually resonate with my personal values, my deepest dreams, and my true desires? When the answers to all three of these questions become a resounding, undeniable yes, human motivation shifts from a fleeting, temporary feeling into an absolute force of nature. Expectancy theory ultimately serves to remind us that human beings are always willing to endure, to strive, and to achieve remarkable things, as long as they genuinely believe their efforts possess real meaning and purpose. When we believe our efforts matter, extraordinary things become possible.
The greatest achievements in human history began with one simple belief, that today's effort can create tomorrow's excellence. If we can really master this psychology in our own lives, we don't just understand the mechanics of the mind, we completely transform how we approach every single challenge that lies ahead of us. If this explainer shifted your perspective on motivation and human drive, please take a moment to like it. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I would absolutely love to hear which of the three pillars you find most crucial or maybe most challenging in your own life right now. Share this explainer with friends who are chasing their own excellence, and make sure to subscribe to Beautiful Mind.
We have so many more fascinations of the human psyche left to explore together. Coming soon, we will unpack a brand new question, leading to a new discovery about how we think, how we act, and how we grow.
See you again at Beautiful Mind.